Everybody smiles in the same language. A smile, let your light come shining through.
Welcome to the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast. I'm Sandra M., coming to you from Santa Fe, New Mexico, the land of enchantment. I interview people from all parts of the world about what happiness means to them. What are they in love with? In each episode, we'll give you a key to happiness to include in your life. And of course, we'll play a happy tune from my live Celebrate Happiness Roadshow.
A smile doesn't cost you anything. But there's so much good.
Welcome to the second season of the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast. And don't forget to catch up on any episodes from season 1 you might have missed. Today we're talking with Rashel Rogers from Irving, Texas. Rashel has been developing leaders for 25 years, having studied at the Greenleaf Center for Servant Leadership. And she has worked with more than 40 organizations worldwide in 15-plus industries, delivering breakthrough moments for over 30,000 leaders. Also, Rashel holds degrees in business, economics, and instructional leadership, and is a certified Life-Cycle Celebrant. She received a Gold Brandon Hall Group HCM Excellence Award and published a case study through the ROI Institute for her work with healthcare practitioners. In her current role at Park Place Dealerships, Rashel provides growth opportunities for leaders through skill building, executive coaching, peer mentoring, leadership continuity planning, and change management. Welcome, Rashel, to the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow. I'm so excited to talk to you about happiness. And, of course, I need to start out with a question that I ask everybody, and that is, what makes you happy, and why is it so important in your life?
Hi, Sandra. Thank you so much for having me. I do want to talk about what makes me happy, but before we do that, I wanted to let you know that song actually makes me happy. I love your intro song. I find it to be really original. Yeah, I would love to know a little bit about how you decided on that song, where you discovered that.
Okay, well, the song is titled Everybody Smiles in the Same Language, and it's written by Todd Lowery, who lives in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which is just down the road, so to speak, from Santa Fe, and he is a composer, and he does many, he's written over 1,000 songs, and I was looking for a song to open the podcast, and he also plays for my live show, and he had this song, and I said, oh, my golly, I love that song. I mean, because it's absolutely true. You know, we all do smile in the same language. And so he gave it to me, and we're off to the races.
I love it. I love that it brings the word smile, into this dialogue. We tend to talk about happiness, but the smile, right, as an indicator of that. And it is a universal facial expression. We know that. A lot of research actually supports that. So we do smile. And I think sometimes this smile is an indicator to ourselves that we're happy. Like when you smile for no reason, it happens maybe sometimes suddenly. Maybe someone will mention it to you, but them calling attention to it makes you realize, something has just happened, and it's connected with how I feel.
Smiling is a component for you of being happy, right? But what are you really passionate about? I know that you have done so much in your life, in your very relatively short life. You've just done so much. And what I know from your introduction is that you really make a lot of other people happy. So does that make you happy, serving others?
It is my love language. For those of you that have studied love languages, acts of service is something that is a way of showing love. And I do like it when other people are happy. I can't say that I take responsibility for their happiness. I do think that's a kind of a fine line there. And one of the things you asked about passion, I think that's an interesting word too, Sandra, to bring into this dialogue. I know that I'm passionate about something if I get excited when we're talking about it, or when I trip up. I get excited and I'm like, okay, that's probably a signal that there's a passion. And learning new ideas and practicing them is something that I know I'm passionate about, because every day when I look at my schedule and what I'm working on that day, that's what I try to work in. That's what I want to do all the time. What am I learning, and how am I bringing it into action? Even if it's just watching something on the television, I want to watch it and then tell people about it, encourage them to watch it if I think it's something they would like. There's always that what is new and what am I going to do differently drive going on in my life, and that's what usually leads to excitement and smiling and, yes, probably happiness.
Wow, so you're going to be a perfect advocate for the happiness movement, because that's what I'm doing here. We're in our second season of this podcast, and the whole concept here is to let people know how other people find happiness in their life, because I totally believe that we are born happy. Now, I don't mean that there are people who are born with illnesses and other things. I certainly understand that. But I think the majority of people are born, they're not born unhappy, right? So how do they become unhappy? What do you think about that?
I love that question. It invokes, it makes me excited about the happiness movement, because I don't know, I was not born happy. I know that I wasn't. I spent most of my childhood struggling, and learned as an adult that there was this thing called happiness. I think we're born with the capacity for happiness, but in my early years, I was in a household that was very uptight and worrisome, and so I took that on. I was a very uptight baby. My dad used to talk about prying my fingers open to try to get the lint out from my hands, because I was clenching my blanket so hard, and my brow was furrowed, and I cried a lot. And that carried into my childhood, where most of the time I was just trying to work hard and do what was right out of fear. So I may have be born with a capacity for happiness, but I don't think I invoked it until I became in control of my own thoughts and my own life, and worked to overcome that tendency. And it wasn't hard. I do think you're right about our capacity, but our environment, I think, really impacts that.
That is fascinating. So you're making a difference between the capacity for happiness and just naturally feeling happy. So that's something I need to think about in a little more detail. But I do want to go back to this concept that you have here of being excited about something and learning new ideas. I think that is that natural to you, or did you train yourself into that?
Well, I love that you pointed that out, because I want to give a flip side to my parents, who are firstborn children doing the best that they can, and that created a tense household. But they were both teachers, and so they were both learners. Yeah, and it's that they love learning, and they loved encouraging learning, and so maybe that's part of the other side of being their child that I definitely hold up in high regard, and know that that's what life is about, is what are you learning? What is going to be new today? What are you curious about?
Join Sandra M. for her live performance of the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow, a toast to love and happiness in life, an uninhibited musical adventure guaranteed to awaken your happiness vibe. Celebrate with upbeat rhythms, love songs, and fun stories, some told by you in the audience. Sandra's musical guest and accompanist, Todd Lowry, sings his hopeful and happy originals. To book Sandra M. and the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow, email sandra@sandramcknight.com. Celebrate happiness with Sandra M.
doesn't that keep you very much alive? Because from what I know of you, you sound like a very sort of alive, happy person. And so most people sort of, as they get older, end up sitting on the couch. I think I've heard that on television quite a bit. You know, and that sort of is a metaphor for not learning, right? Just sort of just holding your space on the couch. Maybe you're reading when you're on the couch or watching television. And as you say, even watching TV, something new, like I love to watch PBS. Oh, boy, I learned so much from PBS, especially about their series on the worlds and so forth, you know, the interplanetary worlds that they're discovering from all the telescopes and so forth. But let me just go back to you talked about passion. So I'd like to know what some of your passions are.
Okay, I love that question. One of the things that is exciting to me is when I get a push in the right direction. So I don't think there's a passion like, so there's not a passion like this topic. And that's another thing about getting older. I'm really glad you touched on that too, because there's this idea that as you get older, you should know. You know, you now have the wisdom. You should have the answer. And there's a lot of ego that comes with that. And that's a point of view of an earlier generation that, you know, respect your elders, listen to them. They know the answers. It's true in the work environment. You know, your leaders know from experience, trust them, do as they say. When it's your turn, you can make changes. But now I feel like learning is a lifelong endeavor, and that as you get older and wiser, you know that you don't know, and you know that it's about asking questions and bringing in other people's realities. And everything's changing so fast, I don't know that you can even expect yourself to be an expert on anything. So you should just be an expert learner instead of like a know-it-all, right? I have the answers. I know the answers, and all these other people are wrong, and that's why I'm going to sit on the couch and watch TV because it's not worth my time, right?
Right, exactly. But you know, I don't want to let you go before I hear, like, are there certain things that you love to do that really just make you happy, like singing or dancing, going out dancing, or maybe cooking, or
yes. So you would think. So here's something that else is kind of interesting, and it probably comes with just being a learner and a worker. I'm a very hard worker, and I like to work. I was actually born on a Saturday, and if you ever heard that poem about children, you know, born on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday's child works hard for a living. So if a day doesn't have work in it, it's so funny because Saturday you think of as a weekend, but if a day doesn't have work in it, I often feel unfulfilled. I like to work, and so it's hard to say that work makes me happy. I think it's the results and the contributions that are exciting to me, and those come in all different kind of ways. Sometimes you can't even anticipate or plan for those. Who's going to cross your path that day? What conversation are you going to have? I do participate in a lot of activities. I'm an avid yogi, and I practice every day, and I'm a tap dancer, and I go to lessons every week, and I like to read my books, and I play the saxophone, and all that stuff is great. The way that I think it brings me happiness, though, is in the way it helps me grow and the people that it puts me in the same spaces with. It's not actually the act of doing those things, it's what those things bring. And so that's why I would like to encourage people to kind of look at that. What are you working on, and what are your hobbies, and how do they bring opportunity and thought and ideas and learning and happiness to you that's not necessarily related to the act that you're doing?
Yes, exactly. So do you think happiness is a feeling that can be brought about by in many different ways? Like you just talked about yoga and tap dancing and reading and so forth. It's not so much what you read, but you just love reading and learning, and so that makes you feel good, it makes you feel happy. Tap dancing, you're with other people, right?
Yeah, is happiness a feeling? I think you can feel happiness. I think happiness is actually a mindset, It's something where if you go in and you're seeking it, you will find it because it's what you're looking for. So it's a mindset. It's somewhat of a choice. And, another thing to think about is I don't know that it's the opposite of sadness, because there have been times where something frustrating or sad is happening right now in my world, but I can still feel happy that it's happening because it's doing for me and the people around me what we need, even if we don't want it. I'm not always comfortable in yoga. I'm not always getting what's going on in TAP. I'm not always at work. Relationships aren't always going smoothly, and I'm not always coaching someone that's happy about what we're talking about. But the movement that it's creating in our life and in ourselves is something to celebrate, and something that later, outside of the moment, we look back on and we're actually happy, even though we're not doing that thing right then.
I do.
Yeah. Yep. That would be the challenge, is to think about, are there times when you're looking back on your day or back on a life event, and now you can see the happiness that it brings you, even if in the moment it didn't.
Right. Hindsight, right? As they say. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Interesting. Very, very interesting. So when I think about happiness for myself, I'm a doer, right? So I do things that make me happy. And for me, it's just automatic, And people say to me, I don't know, Sandra, you just always seem to have this happiness around you. And I'm thinking, well, I sort of trained myself that way because, like you, I didn't have a happy upbringing. And I think a lot of people have not had a happy upbringing. It's not unusual. So you have a choice, and I just made my choice. We're here for a certain amount of time, and I want to make it as happy and joyful and get the most out of life. And so that's sort of my message. It's kind of simple. So I choose things that I enjoy doing. And one of the things I enjoy doing so much is making other people happy. I really do like that. Because I know it's a key to my own happiness, really. And then you start out with the concept of smile, right?
Right.
And how many songs have been written? I mean, I looked into trying to find a theme song. There's a lot of songs that were written about smiling.
Join Sandra M. for her live performance of the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow, a toast to love and happiness in life, an uninhibited musical adventure guaranteed to awaken your happiness vibe. Celebrate with upbeat rhythms, love songs, and fun stories, some told by you in the audience. Sandra's musical guest and accompanist, Todd Lowry, sings his hopeful and happy originals. To book Sandra M. and the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow, email sandra@sandramcknight.com. Celebrate happiness with Sandra M.
Yeah, my favorite song, and it was one that I got a little record in my Easter basket one year when I was young, and it was my first one to play on my record player, and it was Barry Manilow, I Can't Smile Without You. Yes. Still my favorite song.
I can't smile without you. That one?
Yes.
Ba-dum. Okay. Right. So Barry Manilow was really important in your young life.
Well, that song was, and I did migrate towards his concerts and the Manilow magic, but for me it was always about that song. And I'll tell you what's interesting, if you ever had a chance to see him in concert, that was the song where he would bring someone up on stage and let them sing with him. They would film it, and then they would give that footage to the person as a gift.
That's interesting, very interesting. So now I want to ask you another thing about happiness, because I've had people talk to me the difference between happiness and joy, right? Do you think there's a difference between happiness and joy?
That is such a powerful question because, to us as humans, those are words, right? But they're meant to represent something. Yeah. And the spaces where the word joy is used more is like in the spiritual spaces. Like when you think about hymns and things that we sing in church, they're about joy. Even Christmas carols are about joy. And happiness is something that we talk about more pop culture, right? More day to day. It's a term that's used more like in the world and in schools and institutions. So I wonder how people have related those two. And I think it's an interesting thing to ponder. And are the two the same, and can they coexist?
To me, they're all part of the same exciting way of living. You know, you can be happy, you can be joyful. And then the other thing is, how about kindness? Where does kindness fit in?
Oh, now that's one of my favorites. Yeah, so the best advice I ever received from one of my peers, because I'm in the leadership space, and so we're always kind of talking about our craft and how we can put our mind in the right place to do the right thing, because the light is always on leaders. And she said, I can be called a lot of things and not mind, but I never want someone to say that I was not kind. That prevailed for her. She's like, no matter what I'm doing, even if it's a tough conversation, or I'm having to really stand up on behalf of a group or say something that is not popular, I never want anyone to walk away from me and think that I was not demonstrating kindness. That's number one. And I don't know that you always feel happy. You just know that kindness is what you need to do. That's more of a responsibility. It's something that you lean into because you know it's right. It's uniquely human, I think. We're one of the species that, extends that to one another along with grace. So I love that you introduced that word. It's a good start for people that don't think they're happy. Maybe that's a good start for them, is to try to at least just be more kind.
Exactly. So to me, these all roll up into one huge ball, right? Wherever you find your place or you find your niche, whether it's having grace or forgiveness or kindness or happiness or joy, however you enter into that place, once you're there, you have greater connection with other people, which I think is very important. Your mind is not filled so much with negative thoughts, but more with thoughts of kindness and helping other people and happiness and self-care. I'd like, as we end, to ask you what you feel the relationship is, in your opinion, between happiness, kindness, joy, all of these more positive ways of going about life, and somebody's health, their health.
Oh, good. Yes. So when you talk about it all being wrapped up in a ball and related, it's that invokes in me the idea of energy. They are vibrating from the same energy. The source is probably similar. They emanate very similarly, and so all of those I think we would associate with positive results and a positive experience, like the human experience. And one of the things that can interfere so quickly with our human experience is illness. Pain and discomfort. It can shroud everything. It can, how you feel and how you look at things and how you interact, and your sense of hope and what you want out of life is totally different when you're battling just the basic idea of wellness. So, what are we feeding in our body, and what are we allowing to live? And that energy, I think, can make a lot of difference. I do think it's a manifestation, and that's why it's so important to guard I don't want to say be defensive or not participatory, but you do need to be very careful about what you're exposing yourself to, so that you can protect the need to have to recuperate, right, to have to overcome. That just requires so much more than just maintaining, I think.
Yes, exactly. So to me, happiness, as you said earlier, you said you didn't think it's so much of a feeling, but you said you thought it was more like a mindset. Yeah. So whether you have a joyful mindset, a happiness mindset, a kindness mindset, some combination of those two, a mindset, I feel, directly affects your physical being, your health, actually. Because I really believe, as Bruce Lipton has said, this is a famous epigeneticist who one can follow very easily on the web and actually go. He has a Zoom call every month that you can actually participate and ask questions. And he does talk a great deal because he is a cell biologist, world renowned. The relationship between what is going on in your mind and how it affects your body, your actual cellular structure of your body, and therefore your health. So I feel, and I don't know if you agree, that having a happiness mindset, a joyful mindset, smiling more, showing kindness to others, right? Being grateful for what you have in life, those thoughts, those ways of going about life actually affect your physical health.
I'm really glad that you brought gratitude into the formula too, Sandra. That's perfect, because that's another easy, fast route to a shift is just to stop for a minute and think about what you're grateful for.
Absolutely, and not to compare all the time to other people or to most of the time it's to other people, but comparing yourself, I'm not doing enough, I'm not going. And then what happens is that you're not really connected to your own joy, your own happiness, etc. So this is why being grateful for what you actually have and appreciating it, right, is so important. Well, we're coming to the end, and I'm just wondering if there's anything that you would like to say to our audience to close out.
Yes, I would. Sandra, thank you so much for this opportunity. I love the chance to be a little spark in the happiness movement. I do think it's definitely needed. And so with that, what I wanted to do is, a podcast has listeners, and your listeners are chiming in from all kinds of spaces and places and trying to relate this to their own lives. And so I'd love to end with a challenge for your listeners that you all would think about. Yeah, that you all would think about what is one thing you can do today so that you are generally 1% happier tomorrow.
Wow, 1%? Only 1%?
But if you did it every day, Sandra, if you asked yourself that question every day and you were able to achieve it day by day by day, what would be the result?
Exactly. I think that's a fantastic idea. So I'm going to raise that to like 20%. But okay, I'm really into it, right? Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking with you, Rashel, and hearing all your wonderful insights. Thank you so much.
Keys to happiness number 8, acknowledge your unhappy moments. Even though a positive attitude is a good thing, no one is happy all the time. If you get some bad news, make a mistake, or feel like you're in a funk, don't try to pretend you're happy.
Acknowledge your unhappy feelings. Let yourself experience it for a moment, then shift your focus toward what made you feel unhappy and what it would take to recover.
Like a deep breathing exercise, a long walk outside, talking it over with someone. Let that moment pass and take care of yourself.
Newsflash, please sign up for your copy of Our Keys to Happiness at sandramcknight.com. Thank you for tuning into Season 2 of the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast. And if you've enjoyed the conversation, please help spread the word by sharing with your friends and family. Before we go, I'd like to thank today's guest, Rashel Rogers, for sharing her happiness story. And to share your happiness story on the Celebrate Happiness Roadshow podcast, send an email to Sandra@sandramcknight.com.
Turn your smile on, you can't go wrong.